Hello and welcome back to the channel, and thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Now, are you awake? Have you awoken to this new reality? Are you able to just, by putting your fingers out like this, manifest something in front of you? Have you not? Well, you're obviously doing it wrong. I'm clearly doing it wrong because my fingers don't manage to manifest anything. But maybe we can learn some of the techniques that we need to do to awake and guide us through this awakening process that we seem to be in. The world is changing. There's a lot of this sort of talk going on and a lot of talk about manifestation online. So I thought we need to talk to somebody who does just that. So I'm talking to Lois, who is an empowerment coach, and she guides people through the awakening process and teaches people to manifest. And she joins me now. Hello, Lois. Lois.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you, and thank you very much for coming on the show. A bit of a garbled intro there, but that is my natural trait. I said at the beginning there, the awakening process. I suppose a lot of my viewers on the channel, by the fact that they're watching what I do, will be awake to perhaps the tyrannical nonsense that's coming down us from all sorts of different areas, from the pyramid with the eye in it to governments and all of that. But maybe you might mean something else by awakening.
So it can go two ways. So usually when people think of an awakening, they class it as a spiritual awakening. That's not
Right.
necessarily the case for everybody. I think everybody to some degree will wake up, as you say, to kind of what's going on around them, whether that's the society you're living in, your family dynamic, your relationships, who you are as a person. Um, and you will want to make changes. It's what we used to call midlife crisis, but it's actually happening to younger and younger people because they're getting sick and tired of what they're seeing around them and asking the question, there's got to be more to life than this. So if
Right.
you're one of those people that's asking that, that's definitely a sign that you're waking up to something other than what you're already currently experiencing. Now, a spiritual awakening is something more that I went through, and a lot of people that I'm in connections with. Doesn't mean I found religion. I haven't just, suddenly woken up and become a newborn Christian or anything. Spiritual awakenings simply are that you are coming more back to yourself, your soul. You're more in tune with yourself, with nature. You understand about energy, and it's very scientific because it links in with things like quantum physics, quantum mechanics. So it's not a woo-woo thing. It's not, we all don't just go dancing around the forest around a tree and that sort of thing. This is very practical, logical based. It's all about energy, and vibration. And, people like Einstein and Tesla, they all talked about it.
One of the things that strikes me is that puts, I suppose, hurdles in front of people in order to sort of accept the spiritual thing is
Mm,
in the 3D world that we're in, we can see, touch, feel, and we can use the five senses that we've got. When it comes to the spiritual, there's a sort of a leap of faith that even though we are told by all sorts of scientists now who come on and say actually everything's vibration and everything's
mm,
energy and all of this, you can't see it. You can understand theoretically that things are moving very fast and therefore solid objects appear solid. But when you bash them and touch them and you go, well, they still feel solid to me. How do we interact and make use of this knowledge that everything is energy and vibration?
well, I think it comes from that fact of we can't see gravity, but we believe that it's there because somebody told us that. We're
And
not
but
flown.
we do see the results of it, don't we? I mean, if
We
I drop
do,
something,
exactly. So there are results of that, but it's the same way as I could tell you I'm feeling sad. Can you tell that I'm feeling sad? You can't tell by
not
knowing that.
no, not
You're
initially. I would.
believing what I'm telling you. So it's the same with emotions, thoughts, the way we interact, even nature. We we're given the tomorrow sun's going to come up. How
Mm.
do we know that? We don't know that, but we still believe it.
Well, we bloody well
We
hope it does, otherwise we're all
yeah,
perished.
yeah. So there's always a certain element of trust in everything. You trust that you're going to wake up tomorrow. You trust that you're
Yes.
going to get to work on time. You trust that, your partner's not going to leave you. We all have to trust in something.
Mm.
And most of the time, people, like you say, they have to believe in the cold, hard facts. But as science and nature and everything has proven time and time again, that things still happen when you can't see them. It's a bit like when you plant the seed, you can't tell that it's actually growing under the soil because you can't see it. You
No.
have to trust and believe that the work you're putting in, that feeding it, nurturing it, all the right conditions, that that's going to grow. And it could take weeks or months, and you're going to sit there going, "Well, nothing's bloody happening. There's no evidence of it." Turn your back, and all of a sudden, you'll just see that shoot come up. So, all that time, something has been happening. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not real. And that's in some ways how we kind of get around it. That's how quantum mechanics came about, because they recognized that something on one side of the world was actually causing something else on the opposite side of the world to react the same. It's similar with twins. They've done studies with twins and the telepathy between them, that you ask them the same questions and they give the same results. They do the same things. So in a way, it is challenging for people to kind of get around this idea that even faith, belief, and even you don't have to believe in God or anything like that, but you must believe in something. So if you've got a belief in one thing, you can transcend that to believe in something else. So it's a choice for a lot of people, but again, if you've had any kind of awakening, it's not so much of a choice. You just get kind of being asked by the universe and told this is where you're going. So you blindly got to have faith to know you're going to be okay.
Do you think that one of the things that have stopped people embracing this in huge numbers very quickly is the way that we've been educated in this world? I mean, we're very much
Mm-hmm.
dumbed down, and I know the viewers of my show will appreciate my views on all of this, and I'm sure that many of them will share the same, that we've been dumbed down and we've been put into a very narrow band about what reality is. And as you alluded to, we get to that point where we start going, well, is this it? Do I go 9 to 5 to work, end up with a pension, and get too ill to enjoy it, and then snuff it? Was that it? What was the point of anything?
Yep, pretty much. And that's another side of the kind of waking up process, is recognizing that you are none of the things that anybody has ever told you in your life, whether your teacher told you you were stupid, whether your parents said that you would never amount to anything, whether your partner, said they didn't love you anymore. None of that actually is you. That's just all projected upon you. And
Mm.
so throughout all areas of our life, we pick up other people's projections, and they've also picked those up, friends and peers, and it goes on. So it comes to a point where you've got to cut that off and say, okay, so you can say all this about me, but what do I truly know about me? And when it comes to this meat suit that we're all floating around in, when we die, this disintegrates, this disappears, and what is left? Well, the soul is what makes us who we are. Our personal reality is what creates our personality. So you have one person who experiences a great life, good home life, stable, while another person ends up living homeless, being abused. It's hard to kind of make sense of that scenario, but in a way, it comes down to choice. And you either choose to believe what you're fed and what people tell you, or you choose a different story and you choose to then create your own reality. And that's where manifesting comes in.
So, I mean, most people, I would imagine, if you ask them, do you want to live a drab, miserable life in which you're ill, have no money, constantly downtrodden, and all of that, are unlikely to sort of turn to you and say, yeah, that's the kind of life I want. I really want to have that feeling that actually every day I wake up with dread about the
Mm-hmm.
bills that are coming in. So most people don't choose that. Now, I appreciate exactly what you've said, that a lot of stuff is projected onto us, and we're being told by all sorts of people, including the government, that we have to abide in certain ways, and this is how life is, and there's no way getting around it. So what do you then say to those people who say, well, my life is miserable, I don't want it to be miserable, I don't want to take that choice, how do I get out of it?
Well, that's that's the main part of what I do as an empowerment coach. So, empowerment simply is giving yourself that power back to make different choices. I mean, take for example me. I now permanently live in a motorhome. I, with the cost of living and the cost of housing, when I sold my property and my partner and I split, I had what seemed to be no option. There were no choices for me. I couldn't afford anything by myself. And so I decided to go down the unconventional route. And that is broadening people's scope. It's literally saying to them, you do not have to fit in this box or go down this path that anyone else has told you have to do. You can literally sit there and say, well, actually, what makes me happy? And we're very programmed not to think about ourselves because it's selfish to do so. You must give everything to everybody else and put yourself last. But like when you're in a plane, the first thing they tell you to do with the face masks is put your own on first before anyone else's, because
Mm.
you're no good to anybody if you're dead, and you're no good to your family, friends, and your society if you are lacking energy. Like you say, if you've got poor health, if you've got poor finances, it it comes from the fact that you're not putting yourself first. So what I help people do is understand, first of all, what is it that actually makes you happy? What really lights you up? What do you enjoy? And that could even just be reading books or knitting or whatever. Do more of that. Start cutting out the things that make you bloody miserable. And this is where it gets scary for people because it requires change. Nobody likes stepping out of their comfort zone and going into anything that's unfamiliar because they don't know what's going to happen. You think, okay, if I quit this job, then what? I might end up with losing my house or XYZ. If I leave this person, will I ever find anybody else to love? You have to get out of your comfort zone if you're ever going to change your life. So when people come to me, and I've had quite a few clients recently say, um, I want to do this and I want to do this, but there's no point, it'll never happen for me and I can't do this. That shows how dumbed down we have become as a society by people constantly telling us, you can't do it. But that's just because they can't do it. Doesn't mean
Mm.
you can't do it. So following the sheep and the herd and just abiding by what everybody else tells you is never going to get you change. You have to really be selfish and start focusing on yourself and your needs and be prepared to make changes. And that sometimes means that you're going to lose friends, family are not going to speak to you. You may end up breaking relationships and quitting jobs, but the payoff is you being happy for the rest of your life, then it's got to be worth it.
I guess I'm imagining that people sitting out there will be thinking, well, it sounds absolutely marvelous, but unfortunately, I'm in a situation where I have got literally 12 hours of work. They work these hours all day long and they only make sufficient money, and they couldn't spend that extra time doing things because when they get back from wherever they've been earning a living, they're tired and they need to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of people are under a lot of pressure. And
Yeah.
also, they may be married, in which their partner may say, look, we can't afford for you to suddenly start thinking about yourself all of a
Yeah.
sudden. And I guess these are the sort of issues that you get people coming back to you with when you say, you know, what you've just said.
Mm.
So I mean, it's a huge leap of faith, isn't it, for somebody to
Yeah.
make that change? And presumably some people don't make the change necessarily work.
No. But it doesn't have to be a grand change. I know for me it was a huge change. So last year, as I say, I um, got divorced. I closed my business of 14 years. I left the home, went to live with family and friends. I was sofa surfing for a while, and it wasn't easy. My son went to live with his dad predominantly because that was the situation that worked for us at the time. And I took a very, very different route to everybody else. And I had people say to me, God, you're so brave doing this. You're so courageous. It wasn't bravery. It was because the alternative was bloody insanity. Continuing to pour into something that wasn't giving me any satisfaction or joy, just that is the epitome of insane, in my opinion, when you just give yourself and you're getting absolutely nothing in return. So for those people who I do appreciate, it's not that easy. It's it's about your mindset. You could stay in the job you're in, you could stay in the family environment you're in, you could stay in the relationship that you're in, but you've got to change how you view it. So if you're someone who sits there going, I have to work 12 hours a day to make this money, then that's the reality you're going to create for yourself. But if you can change your mindset to be someone who truly 100% can believe that they can earn that same amount of money doing half the amount of hours, that they can get that promotion because they deserve it, because they are amazing. It's really feeding your subconscious with the most positive affirmations rather than constantly telling yourself, I'm no good. This is the life I've got. This is just going to suck. And that's the first part to change. You've got to change what's going on up here to change anything outside of you.
No, well, I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. Is even if there's no sort of woo-woo vibration or any of those things working,
Yeah.
unless you're actually open to changing stuff, nothing's ever going to happen.
Mm.
But because of the indoctrination, how do you switch from what initially must be wishful thinking
Mm.
as you start to go, okay, I've watched this podcast, there was this bald bloke with glasses talking to this lady, and she was saying you can do this, this, and this, and they're sitting there thinking, okay, let's change my thinking. At first, presumably there's doubt, self-doubt, whether
Mm.
it makes any sense, whether, oh, it's just somebody out there trying to make a bit of money because they do this, that, and whatever. And so how do you get from that initial, which must be wishful thing, I wish I was in this situation,
Mhm.
to not so much getting in the situation, but getting the fact that you then really believe it so that you are confident about making the change going on?
Yeah. Well, we all want proof. We want evidence. That's the first thing. The ego mind needs to see fact. It needs, like you say, to see solid matter before it can really believe it. And as
Mm.
the saying goes, I'll believe it when I see it. But you've got to reprogram that to I will see it when I believe it. And that's one of the biggest mindset changes that we go through. So
There was a
you
book.
can't
There was a book by that very title, wasn't there? And I've
yeah,
got the book, and I can't remember the name of the
I know.
bloke who
I
wrote it.
can't remember. I've read too many lately. They all just blur in
He
the
made
brain.
a million though. He made a
Yeah.
million.
But it is that principle. And again, that comes down to a bit of faith. But if someone's not got a lot of confidence, if someone's already got these doubts and they've got all this stuff, like you say, that's been pre-programmed into them, you're not going to just skip it overnight. I certainly didn't. It's taken me 4 years to
Mm.
get to where I am now. And even now, when people to me say, oh, you're positive and happy and you're skipping along, la, 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 your life must be great. No, I still wake up and I still have moments of doubt where I think, what the hell am I doing? Nothing's ever going to change. I get myself back into my end, as it were, which is, what's your dream life? Is it, that big house? Is it that amazing lover? Is it, living in Australia? Whatever it is, you've got to be delusional to some degree. The thing that they always drum out of us when we're younger is not to daydream, not to fantasize, not to, as kids, it's always like, oh God, you're living in a fantasy. Stop that.
Mm.
And yet that's where all dreams start and that's where they're all manifested. So you have to kind of work through it like an alphabet. You might initially have to go A, B, C, but as your confidence grows and as you start to feel different, you might skip then and you might suddenly end up on J. Then you might end up on N, and then before you know it, you're at Z and you're there. So it's a step by step process, but you've got to commit to it. If you've committed however many years of your life believing that you can't, you've got to put that same amount of effort and determination into believing that you can.
So having an unrealistic expectation then is something that you must avoid, because if you sort of go, oh, I watched this 1 week
Mm,
and I did it for a week, nothing happened,
yeah.
and so therefore it doesn't. I mean, my just to give a story, and I don't like to do too much interrupting, but my dad used to make aerials, and he came up with this very clever aerial back in the sort of 60s, and he advertised it in the Radio Times. Nobody bought this thing, so he said, well, advertising doesn't work. Simple as, I put it in. Not realizing he probably needed to be in there for 6 months so that
Yeah.
people began to see it and trust it and thought, oh, well, this company is still there every day, every week. And so he tried it, and then he just said, no, it doesn't work. And so he never advertised again because he didn't believe in it. So so in other words, what I'm saying is, from what you've just said, the unrealistic expectations. If you imagine, oh, I'll get this big house, this swimming pool, this great lover, and live in Australia, and if it doesn't happen by the end of the week, I'm giving
Mhm.
up, then
Yes.
clearly it's a long-term situation. But
Well, as you develop in I suppose with your mindset and your confidence, as you go through those shifts, the manifesting side of it speeds up. Think some things can be really super fast. Like I manifested this motorhome um in 3 days.
wow,
And yeah,
that was
um
literally pointing your fingers and
yeah,
going.
exactly.
So
It was like
just tell us how you did that then, just as
so
as a matter of interest.
expectation is a good one that you pointed on because when you're expecting something, you are trying to control the outcome. You're saying
Right.
that, like you say, this has to happen by a certain time with a certain person in a certain way.
Mm.
And the universe doesn't necessarily work like that because our minds are limited. So when you kind of let the how and the when be open, you find that the universe starts to put things together in a way that you could never imagine, and usually much better and usually much easier. So when we start to meddle around with it, we start to cause problems and then we get frustrated. So with this motorhome, I was originally going to get houseboat, but couldn't find anything. So for about 4 or 5 months, whilst waiting for the house to sell, it just nothing was happening. I was getting block after block. And Matthew McConaughey always calls this your green lights and your red lights. So green lights are when universe is giving you the flow and you're in it. And red lights are when you just nothing you do just seems to work. So I thought, I'm gonna leave it. And then I was chatting to my friend, she was buying a camper van. And I said, oh, maybe van life is for me then. But I didn't want to live in a transit van. So I thought, motorhome's the next best option. Looking at property, couldn't find any bricks and mortar, and I went, right, motorhome it is then. And as soon as I decided that, I got that kind of buzz feeling, when you make that decision and something just feels good. I was like, yeah, this is aligned action. So I went on Facebook and I went on eBay and I was saving all these motorhomes and they all just didn't materialize. So I did a meditation and I pictured my motorhome, how I wanted it to look, what price it would be, um, where it was going to turn up, all the little features that I wanted. I properly imagined it and I did that every day, thinking about it and acting as if I already had it. So I was like, I can't wait for my motorhome to come. It's amazing. And I found one. This is how the universe works. It's kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So the first van I looked at was almost there, but it wasn't quite right. It just didn't fit. The next day I went to see another one. Again, that was closer, but still wasn't quite right. My intuition was like, no. And then on the third day, I saw this other one, went straight out to see it. It was in my local area. I walked in, it had all the features I wanted. It even looked exactly how I imagined it. And the guy even knocked the price down himself before I'd even said anything. So
Wow.
I got it for the price I wanted, in the area I wanted, within the time frame I wanted, and it looked exactly how I imagined it in my meditations. And the reason I think it happened so fast is because I had no expectation and no attachment. I wasn't trying to control it. I just knew it was a done deal. That's it. It's going to happen and it will appear. And it did. And it's the same with my house sale as well. That took almost a year to go through. But every day I was like, it's going to happen. It's all good. It's fine. Even to like the 11th hour, we almost had everything fall through. And I said, I can choose to believe that this is my reality, or I can choose to believe the reality where the house sale goes through. I get that money and I get the motorhome because without the money, I couldn't have paid for this. So
Mm.
I knew that my motorhome was coming. Therefore, the house sale had to also happen. So I just stayed in trust and the two happened.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about how to manifest. Now, one of the things it struck me because we've been looking at various videos on all of these things as you do in the whole awakening process,
Mm,
and there seem to be a lot of people like Dolores Cannon and many others, Alan
yep.
Watts, and all of these that talk about it. And then recently, it seems there's a lot of these YouTube videos that are saying the reason your manifestation is not working is because you're not doing this. And now that
Yeah.
seems to be very odd because people were talking about this sort of, generations ago. And then all of a sudden there seems to be this, oh, it's not working now. We've made a lot of money selling the
Mm,
concept, but people are now sort of getting a bit, hang on a minute, this isn't working. So now they're selling more stuff to make you say, you need this, or you're not doing
yeah.
this, and watch this to the end, or make sure you sit through all these adverts so I make some money, and then I'll
Yes.
tell you what it is. And at the end, it always seems very unsatisfactory, as if, well, there was nothing really very different between what people were saying before and what you've just said. So take us through a foolproof
A
way for
foolproof.
my viewers who want to be able to really engage and do this.
Okay. Well, as we said, the first one's got to be the belief aspect of it. If you can believe that this is yours, then it's a done deal. A good way to test that for yourself is the principle here that I picked up from another coach that I watch on YouTube, and it stuck with me. Was she said that if it wasn't a possibility, you wouldn't even desire it.
Right.
And that predominantly comes from a lot of the Neville Goddard teachings, that the reason you want it is because it is for you. It's like, I don't want to be an astronaut. That's never been my desire because it's not in my kind of destiny, as it were. It's not in my remit. And
Right.
when you consider things about like timelines, we have infinite timelines, infinite possibilities. We can be living these, kind of alternate universes, as it were. So there's a time where I'm Taylor Swift, or there's another lifeline where I'm actually doing this, or there's another lifetime where I'm actually homeless. There's so many versions of us. So you have to, first of all, know what it is you want and why you want it. Because if you want, for example, we call them SPs, but it's specific person. So if there's somebody you want to be in a relationship with, or you're in a relationship and it's not going too well, those are the hardest ones to manifest because we will get sucked into the other person's story. So when someone says to you, I don't want to be with you, that's it, done. We believe them. And then that becomes our reality. And so then you don't end up with that person. But if you could be delusional, and if it feels true in your heart and soul that you are meant to be with that person, then you stay with that belief and you just allow things to happen as they're meant to happen. And I've had this happen with me. I've had people that have disappeared. Maybe a year's gone by, and all of a sudden getting the phone call, "Hey, I want to be with you. Take me back." And you're like, "Okay." But that's partly because I had that belief that I was chosen, that they did want to be with me. Um, so if we were to literally put it into kind of a process of steps, first one, you've got to know what you want and why you want it. Get really aligned with that. The second one is believe in it, and constantly, all day, every day, remind yourself that it is done, that it is happening already. It's like an Amazon order, not to obviously advertise, other people are available. You place your items in your basket and you just go selecting everything you want. That could be everything. I want to win the lottery. I want to have that job. I want to have that relationship. You pile it all in your basket, click checkout, done. You don't then sit there for the next 2, 3 days, clinging to your door, going, "Where's my order? It's not happening. It's not here. Yeah, that means it's all gone to pot." The universe is kind of gathering all the pieces together. And you may have the perception in your mind that it's got to happen this certain order, but actually it might have to happen in a slightly different order because things in your environment have to change and you have to change. So it takes time for that to evolve. So you're not just going to wake up one day and go, "I want to have a brand new Porsche." Click, it's done. You have to constantly affirm that you have that car. You are the person that has that car. If you want to be a millionaire, you've got to start acting like someone who is a millionaire. How does a millionaire behave? How do they wake up in the morning? Another good example was someone said, if the National Lottery said to you, "Congratulations, you've won the jackpot. You've got £6 million on its way to you, but it's not going to be there for a month." How are you going to act for that month? Are you going to be miserable, moping around, complaining, scratching for pennies? Or are you going to be going out there and absolutely living your best life, absolutely joyous, being kind to people, being helpful, loving life, celebrating everything, being confident, because you know it's coming. And it's that delusional
You
part
just
of
hope that they
manifesting.
don't ring up. You've spent all your money going, oh, I've won. They say, oh, I'm ever so sorry. We made a clerical error there. It was one number. We thought it was a 9. Actually, it was a 6. I do apologise. No problem. I hope you haven't lost any money on the inside.
Yeah. There are moments, and that's the thing. And sometimes, even in my manifestation process, there's things I'm learning about that I think, even I go, well, this has been a while I've been doing this. This isn't working. And the moment you give up, not
Mm,
you don't give up on the manifestation, you don't give up on the dream. So for me, there were certain aspects of career paths that I went on when I was my business was florist, and I started that up off the back of having an actual mental health crisis. People thought literally you're mad starting a business, but I was like, no, makes sense to me. And I always had in my mind, I'm going to work for a celebrity, I'm going to work for the royal family, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And I did eventually get to fulfill those things because I truly 100% believed it would happen. But I
well, I bet
wasn't
you had fun
obsessed.
working for the royal family.
Well, it wasn't direct. It was sort of in association with. So, but even then, that was enough for me because I was like, tick, I did that, I achieved that. But I wasn't obsessing with the outcome of it. I didn't obsess with when it was going to happen. It took me to do that about 7 years before that actually happened because
Right.
I had other things that came up, other things became a priority. Sometimes I got sucked into the day to day, like how am I going to make this money? How am I going to make ends meet? And that would draw you out of your fantasy in a sense. But then if I had bad days, I'd go, do you know what? By the end of the day, I'm going to make X amount of money, and I guarantee I would always hit that. And it's that determined belief that it is yours and it is done. You just don't mess around with the how and the when.
Right.
Because if you get so super attached to something, you will start to try and control it. Then you start to manipulate. And that's not what manifesting is. If you're trying to control an outcome or control a person, you are trying to manipulate them. And that is not the right energy to be in because that means that you constantly perceive you don't have it. You're in lack. And as we all know, you when someone's being really needy with you, it's quite repulsive. You don't want to be near that person. But the person that acts like they couldn't give a monkeys and they're just in their own little bubble, everybody kind of wants a piece of that energy because it's quite magnetic. So in order to attract all the things you want, you've got to start behaving and believing and acting as the person that already has those. So if you want a fulfilling, loving relationship, you've got to be really fulfilling and loving to yourself and going about your day as if you already have that. And there is no needing it because it's already done. It's like your dream person is literally on the other side of, whatever comes next. They're just there and they're on their way to you. You don't have to chase it. You let it come to you. So yeah, it's confusing because as you said, there's loads of different techniques and everybody thinks theirs is right. But at the end of the day, it literally just comes down to how you are behaving, what you truly believe, and just staying determined on it. And there's a good phrase I heard where it said, why do nice people always date kind of assholes or end up with the wrong people? And he says it's because people will accept the love they believe they deserve. So that goes for all aspects of life. It's not just enough to dream about it and desire it. You've got to know that you deserve it. And that's where the worthiness comes in. So that's where what I do is try and help people kind of build their confidence up, build their empowerment up to know that it's not just that you can have it, it's that you damn well deserve it. We were not put on this earth to suffer and be miserable. We were put on this earth to experience and live joyously. So we need to start doing that.
Does gratitude play a role in all of this? You hear this
Mm-hmm.
as a very much a thing that you're thankful for this and you're thankful for that. Because if you can be delusional. I mean, sometimes you say about other people, oh, yeah, they're a bit bloody delusional, aren't they? And it turns out they're the most ungrateful people because
Mm,
they're so self-centered and they think they're the best thing since sliced bread. But actually, they're living a lie.
mm. I tend to find though that the happiest people are usually the craziest, or at least crazy in other people's eyes, as you know
Mm.
what is the standard societal norms. But I've always been classed as crazy and delusional and living in a fantasy world my whole life, and I just look
Well,
around at
none
the
of that
people.
matters if you're happy, does it? I mean,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah, and I
I'm
look at
sure
other
people
people
think
that
I'm quite delusional running the channel. But going back to gratitude, is
yeah,
that is that an important thing to express or
yes,
understand or
it
deal
is.
with?
Yeah, I mean, one of the key messages I got in the this was last year, and I couldn't understand it for the life of me. I was at breaking point because, as I say, my business was closing. I had no money coming in. I was literally sofa surfing, nowhere to live. I had to, after spending like 12 years in my son's pocket, he now was no longer living with me. I literally felt like I'd lost everything. I was so just lost. And I remember just kind of, calling out and saying, come on, just give me something. And the message that came to me was when you can be happy with nothing, you will receive everything. And I thought, oh, that's quite profound. And I sat with it and I realized, yeah, I need to be grateful for what I do have, not what I appear not to have. So
Hmm.
I looked and I said, do you know what? I've got great friends. I've got a supportive family. I'm not on the streets. My son is safe. Um, Everything is just all working out as it needs to be. And right now, in this exact moment, everything's okay. I'm okay. And it it's really, I mean, it's hard for people when they're going through something. And I know because when I was going through depression and I had a lot of childhood traumas and things, that in those moments when, things are coming at you, it's really hard to sit there and say, I'm really grateful for, living on the streets, or I'm really grateful for my partner abusing me.
Yes.
But
Well, you're not really grateful for a partner abusing you or
no,
living on the streets
exactly.
as such, are you?
But if
Why would
you
you?
that's a mind again, that's a moment where you can really get sucked in to the experience you're having, rather than saying to yourself, okay, so how do I fix this? How do I change this? How can I get out of this situation? And just asking for help is one of the first key things. But for a lot of us, we don't believe that the help's available.
Hmm.
We don't believe anybody's going to care. So we're going to see more of that. We're going to believe that people don't care about us or that they don't want to help us. But you think of how many times you hear stories where somebody said, when I finally made the decision to change my life and I reached out, the support was there, the help was there. Because when you ask for it, the universe will give it, but you've got to be ready to ask for it. So having gratitude for even the tiniest thing is where it can really start to snowball into much bigger and better things. Because at the end of the day, if you're a miserable person and you win the lottery, you're just a miserable rich person. You haven't changed anything about yourself. You're still not grateful
Hmm.
for having that money, because if you weren't a grateful person before, you're not going to appreciate it when you get it. And with manifesting, it's the unfolding of things that is the fun part. Getting it is like, yay, I got the house, brilliant. Now what? When I got this motorhome, I was crying with joy. And then I was like, well, now what? Now what comes next? And I was like, oh, that was so much fun. And
Hmm.
then I was like, oh, well, what can I manifest now? And even just tiny, tiny things, I would just be manifesting, getting the last parking space, or getting a free cup of coffee, or even like manifesting a friend that I hadn't spoken to for 16 years. I just thought about one day and said, I wanted to reach out to me. And she found me through my YouTube channel. Um, Literally within a week of me thinking of her. And I hadn't spoken to her. We have no contact for 16 years. So yeah, and even then I'm like, thank you, universe. So every single thing that happens, every good thing or every bad thing, you say thank you, because it's either a blessing or a lesson. And that's the way to look at life, I think.
Karma must be
Mm,
an important part of this. That you presumably you can't just keep getting things, even if you've been rather nasty and horrible. You've punched your
Mm.
wife in the face, and you said,
Yeah.
I'm going to go and get a Porsche now. I don't care. I'm going to have another lover." And so I mean, is there a sort of right and wrong in the area of what you could manifest? Because clearly, if you were deceiving your partner by saying, "Well, I'll just have a Barbie doll on the side," that's the sort of thing I
Yeah.
quite fancy. So, I mean, how does ethics and morals affect the manifesting, or will it just still do that?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that always query and they'll always say, well, if you're like manifesting a particular person, for example, how do you know that they're not manifesting someone else? And
Yeah.
there's the principle that what you desire desires you, because as I say, you wouldn't want it if it wasn't already a possibility. Um, so it's if you really want something, if it's that's the difference. It's saying to yourself, oh, I want that just because from an ego point of view, I can have that. I want to have, a load of mistresses just because I feel like it.
Hmm.
That's very much from ego. That's very much from arrogance. And you will get your ass handed to you by the universe at some point. That's the way karma works. It's not about you do a bad thing happens to you, but you will find that at some point it does catch up with you if you don't make amends for that. Um, so when it comes to manifesting certain things like a job or money and things like that, it's not wrong to want those things because we're all supposed to be living more abundantly, not living these shallow shell lives. So if you're someone that's gone through a very difficult time, then at some point that's got to turn around. But again, it's about choice because, as I say, life is choices. You make good ones, life is easier. You make bad ones, your life is going to be harder. But your choice is to choose which is which. And there's no real right or wrong. And certainly morally, if you're doing harm to someone, it will come back and bite you at some point. Guarantee it. But also, if you're someone who's, been slogging away, being a good person, you will be rewarded, but you've got to make sure that your choices are the right choices. So if you're someone that's wanting a loving relationship, but you're still choosing, you know, arrogant idiots who don't care, you're still the one making those choices. But when you start to respect yourself, value yourself, and make better choices for yourself, you're going to attract a very different type of person.
Hmm.
And it's the same with, any part of your life. How you do one thing is how you do everything. If you're someone who truly believes you are a good person and all you want to do is work with animals or work with children and help people, then it's up to you to make the choices that align with that rather than sitting at home saying, well, this is never going to happen for me. You know, again, that's a choice at the end of the day. So it's all about alignment, really, is your choices and your desires must match up with who you are as a person. And yeah, if you make a bad choice, karma will, present itself um, to steer you back on the right path. And again, it's your choice. Do you listen to it or do you not? If you commit a crime, the consequence will be you will maybe go to jail. Your choice
Yeah.
then
So
is,
it
are you
it
going to
it,
reform
it
or
is
are you going to keep doing it? So
right. And what about greed then? I mean, presumably, if you've got this power at your fingertips that you can just materialize anything, so, well, actually, I'll just have 5 yachts, 3 islands, a couple of aeroplanes. I'll have all this lot. I mean, again, as I said before, can you end up with unrealistic expectations to the point that you turn into a Bill Gates where you're buying up every bit of farmland, you've got private jets, you can do all this and then preach to other people about saving the planet. I mean, greed must
yeah,
be something that would be thrown at you. It's like, well, how many cars do you need?
yeah. Um, it's funny actually because a lot of those people like Jeff Bezos, and I, Bill Gates and people like that, they they had a belief. Even Richard Branson, people always had sort of hemmed them down and was just like, this will never happen, this will never happen. They never gave up, and to some degree, a lot of them are actually very, very humble. And Elon Musk is one of my most favorite people on the planet because he doesn't give a hoot about the money. He's openly said, I don't care about the money. I care about my happiness and the joy I can bring to others. I can buy any old island I want, but it's not going to make me happy. And, he's proven that many times when, advertisers have said they're going to pull their money. He's like, good, do it. I don't need your money. I'm not here for your money and your validation. And that's why he wants to go into space and do all these things. And people again are like, oh, wasting money on rockets when you could be solving, the poverty crisis and things like that. But that's a united thing. That's not just Elon Musk's responsibility. Just because he's got the money, doesn't mean that he's the one to solve it. This is a community wide thing. And when you go to like kind of ground level, people are doing that. It's when you start to try and rise your head above that, that's when you meet the blocks of people around you, the government and other people in power, as it were, saying, nah, you need to stay back down there, because if too many of you rise up here, you're going to see what's really going on, and then we've got no power over you and no control. And that's why you need people like Elon Musk and these really wealthy types, because they then have the kind of the power that can fight against those people. But as you see in the media, as soon as someone starts to get their head too far above it, media starts slamming them. The amount of people that are trying to leave Hollywood, people like, Justin Bieber and all these types, the moment they try to break away, I mean, Taylor Swift has had so much backlash for things that she said and done, and people trying to constantly paint her out to be evil. Same with people constantly trying to paint him out to be this
Who?
disgraceful
Sorry, it
person.
broke up then.
Oh, Donald Trump. And I'm no big kind of, Trump person before anybody says, but that's when people start to you get the awakened people start to notice, oh, when these people are speaking the truth, when these people are trying to step away from the machine, as it were, the real power machine, the real greed people, the ones that are trying to control the rest of us, all of a sudden there's this whole picture that's painted against everybody. So greed isn't part of manifesting. Manifesting is about abundance, it's about joy, it's about living your best life. If you happen to be a multimillionaire at the end of that, great. But you're coming from a place of love and kindness and joy, and there's no greed in that. You're just being rewarded for that. The real greedy people are the people who are trying to control you and manipulate you, and that's not
Mm.
manifesting. So it's two completely different
You,
worlds.
you mentioned there pop stars and Hollywood stars. Now, some people
Mm.
from the awakened crowd, in as much as awakened to what's going on in the world, might say, and I don't want to put words into their mouths, but they may well say, but a lot of these famous people are compromised because they've sold their soul to the devil in various different ways, without having to be too specific about this, so they keep the channel going. I didn't want us to dance on eggshells all the
I
time with this
know.
channel. So some of those people, they may well have the sort of smiley, smiley, I'm on your sidey, but they may well be doing secret signs to each other, saying, actually, I'm part of this club.
Yeah.
And so I'm just pushing a little bit back on some of those, because perhaps they've not necessarily wanted to be in that club, but found the choice almost difficult to resist. And
Mm.
so then they become
Yeah.
successful and wealthy on the back of that.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about it, if you've grown your whole life wanting to be a pop star or a movie star, and someone's offering you, the option to do it, but there's a price attached to it.
Mm.
Again, it comes down to choice. Is that your moral compass? Do you, like you say, do you want to sell your soul to the devil for that? Or can you possibly perceive that there's another way to get there? Um, I mean, I think there's a famous story with obviously with Jim Carrey. He's one of the most well-known people that's definitely woken up to it. He's left Hollywood. People didn't like that, and again, the story started to emerge, trying to paint him out to be this crazy guy. Um,
So
and
interesting you pick him, who is of course famous for the Truman Show,
yeah,
which a number of people feel is very close to reality.
very much so. And we always get picked out on this, this journey about the Matrix, and everybody thinking, living an alternate universe. But it is that way. And I mean, Jim Carrey was always manifesting his whole life. He always had this written out check that he wrote to himself for $10 million. He kept it in his wallet, and every day he just kept affirming, I will make $10 million. And when he signed to do, I think it was Ace Ventura, he got paid $10 million for that movie. And
What?
it came true for him. And he manifested so many other things, like so
Sorry,
many of these.
just bear with me. I've just got to write myself a check here.
I know. I've tried doing that
Richard,
as well.
have you done it?
Yeah, I have a few times, but that was back before I really was going on this journey, and I didn't have the solid belief. So
I mean,
now
presumably
I'm
some
gonna
of this has
retry
got
it.
to be. It's not only about manifesting something just because you want it.
Yeah,
Surely there has got to be some connection with what is right
absolutely.
and proper for you as well as the rest of the world. I mean,
Hmm.
and we're sort of running out of time, but you've spoken that people have got to be delusional, and it is sort of seems to be a bit selfish. And I know,
Mm,
going back to the point that if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after
yeah.
others. I take that, but some people might just edge too much. I mean, surely
Mm,
there is something that says that actually there's got to be a sense of it being proportional and right,
mhm.
rather than just, yeah, you can manifest whatever you damn well like and it doesn't matter what happens to other people.
Yes, and this is where I think what we would kind of class the 3D types won't get this, and that's why they won't manifest, because it's not coming from a true place of goodness, of kindness, of divinity, whatever you want to call it. It's not coming from their heart and their soul. If it's coming from your ego, if it's coming from your mind, yes, you can manifest something. That's why we can manifest negative as well as positive, because thoughts become things. But it has to come from a real deep place within you to truly want something. If you truly desire it, you will make it happen. And it's that's the difference. And the real most powerful manifestors are always the ones that have woken up. They're always the ones that have already been on an exploration of their soul's journey, be it spiritual awakening or just not wanting to conform to the rest of the world's opinions anymore. They've woken up. Those are the people that can go on and become really powerful manifestors, because at the end of the day, we are the conscious creators of our lives. We get to determine a massive amount of what goes on around us. Um, and it's anybody could manifest, but the true, real, powerful manifestors are the people that are doing it because it comes from a really deep, good place within them, and it's guided from whatever you want to call it, universe, God, cosmos. But ultimately it's there's a good film called The Feeling is the Secret. And all these, spiritual gurus and manifestors, they feature on that movie. I would highly recommend people to watch it, because at the end of the day, you truly do manifest from not just what you believe, but how you feel. And so if you are not coming from this at a place of real pure heart, it's very, very difficult for things to really manifest in the right way. And again, then it comes back to karma. And if you're
Um,
wishing someone ill, you want someone else to lose their job because they did you wrong. That's going to bite you. That's what you want,
well,
is to make sure that your life elevates, not that someone gets knocked down.
okay, so we're running out of time because I want to try and keep this within the hour. But very quickly, then there'll be a lot of people. Two things really, both related to each other. Um, can people get together as a group and manifest something? And also, is it then possible for the tyrannical systems like the WHO and the WEF and the government that we've got at the moment, or any kind of government, to be manifested away?
You can definitely manifest a difference as a whole group. You definitely can. They did a study on it. There was a group of Buddhists who literally sat in a room together and they meditated solidly, sending out a vibration of love. And in that city that they were actually, I think it was maybe the next city over, the crime rate
Right,
halved within
I've heard
24
this. Yeah.
hours. It's happened in so many other instances. It's that quantum mechanics thing that as a collective, yes, we can change the world. We can change who's in power. We can change the playing field. We can totally level up. We can solve a lot of the problems that are going on, but there is an imbalance in the world between the people that are still stuck in this 3D life of believing the crap that's fed to them from the people that are not just, and those of us that are waking up to the reality that there is this imbalance and we can do something to change that. So we've got to take scales so we can, as a collective consciousness, because we're all connected by one consciousness. It's just that some of us tap into it and a lot of us don't. So we've got to get more people to wake up to this side of living, not this side of living. And
Right.
yeah, then you'll see that tipping scale.
Now, you said at the beginning that you coach people to do this, because I imagine some people need a helping hand to help themselves get past that. So have you got a website and place that people can find you? Do you take on clients? Are you wanting more clients from?
Yeah, so I do take on clients. I'm having to completely redo my website, so I haven't got a link to that yet. But people can email me at Lois number 4 coaching at gmail.com. And if they want help with that, they can do that, or they can go to my YouTube channel, Lois Diary of a Manifester, and they can leave me messages there as well. So yes, anybody can kind of come to me for any guidance and advice, and if they want to do coaching with me, then I can definitely help them with that.
Brilliant. Well, I'll leave, if you could send me the links or
Yeah.
the info, I'll bung it in the description and people can check
Okay.
that out should they want to. But Lois, thank you so much for telling us about it. I'm sure that a lot of people that will have resonated with, and perhaps some people will have said, well, I've tried this and I keep failing or nothing happens. And maybe you've answered some of the questions, or indeed they could get in touch with you to help them specifically if they've got certain issues and it's not working. I know that there'll be, and we have had this, of course, before, many people, and you'll see it in the comments and you just choose to ignore them, really, is those people that say, oh, it's just wishful thinking, how can thinking change anything? And I'm guessing these are the poor people who are very much stuck in the 3D world, who cannot see beyond the end of their nose.
Yep. Yep.
No
Those are
disrespect
the
to them.
people. No, exactly. If your life's working for you and you're happy with the way you are and the way things are, keep doing what you're doing. But if
Yeah,
you want to change your life, then there's a different path you need to go down. But
fan-
it's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be easy. So choice is
absolutely.
yours.
Why throw away the opportunity
Exactly.
by just sort of pissing on somebody else's fireworks? That's what I always
Exactly.
think.
I'm
So there
I'm
we
happy enough.
So there you go. Brilliant. Lois, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Wonderful stuff. Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. See what you make of that, and be interesting to read the comments on that. And if you have manifested things in your life, it would be lovely to read the success stories. So do get writing and bung them in the comments. In the meantime, I'll be back with more wonderful guests and, of course, my monologues. But from Lois and myself, thanks for watching and goodbye.